men will report like not waking up with morning wood anymore, uh, not waking up with an erection. And that's one of the things that they report on. Oh, I've just lost this. And I was like, okay, cool. What does that reflect in your life? This lack of like physical penetration and energy in the morning is what's happening in their life. They're like, I've made the money, I'm doing all right in life, but is this it? Like, I feel powerful in the boardroom, but not in my bedroom, in my life. And they have this element of like, yeah, my wife respects me, but she just doesn't desire me. And I feel like there's this spark going. And we look throughout the entire life and it's like, yeah, you have no problems with making money. You have no problems creating things in this world. Yet you ask questions like, is this it?
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the AI InterConnect podcast. I'm your host, Laurent, and today I'm joined by someone who brings a direct, grounded, and much needed voice to leadership, performance, and men's well being. We are in New Zealand today, and Josh Hamilton is the founder of the Uncommon Man Project, a coaching platform helping high performing men gain clarity, strengthen relationship, and lead with purpose. Josh, welcome. Happy to have you on the show.
I'm really excited to be here, Laurent. It's really cool that we can do this internationally.
Yes, exactly. I'm very happy too. I think it's going to be a great talk, and everybody needs to listen to that anyway. Josh, you're building something that resonates with thousands of men. I want to start with you. Where did this mission come from? What was happening in your life at the moment you decided to start the Uncommon Man Project?
Yeah, I guess it's an interesting story. I actually started off in the world of education. So I studied physical education at university, and my second major, I call it a minor, was mathematics. Actually, funnily enough, failed mathematics, which was hilarious because later on I became a mathematics teacher. The funny thing
Wonderful.
is about education was I loved my job. There was very, very few days that I didn't wake up and get to my work and be like, I fucking love this. This is great. But the thing that I realized was the thing that I like loved the most was maths is right or wrong. It's pretty simple. Like it's either right or it's wrong. And the beautiful thing was because I wasn't the most academic student when I went through high school, I had to learn things 7 different ways to actually understand how the mechanism worked. So when I became a teacher, although I wasn't teaching the highest level of scholars or anything like that, I was very, very good at finding the mechanism that clicked for like a kid and just made them light up and actually enjoy mathematics. They were like, I get it, sir. I get it. Oh man, I understand it now. I see how this works. And that filled my cup. I was like, oh man, this is awesome. This is what I love to do. This is so good. And then as time went on, I felt the squeeze and restrictions of like the education system. And I could see, yeah, I loved what I did, but I could see where it was pointing these kids and it wasn't pulling out their greatest gifts. It wasn't pulling out their fullest potential and it wasn't giving them what they were going to need for what the world was going to become. Not that I knew what the world was going to become, but I always knew what it was not going to become. And education hadn't changed since the 1400s. It's just crazy that it had not developed itself and that, there's lots of mechanisms that we changed, but the general objective of it and the general kind of direction hadn't changed. And meanwhile, as a teacher, I got to go to Japan. I took my first ski holiday out of university. I finished university, got my first couple of paychecks, and I was like, I'm off. Like, I'm going for a ski trip because our summer holidays would be the Japan winters. Meanwhile, I was in Japan and destroyed my back. Like not through any accident or anything. I just found myself for 6 of the 14 days not being able to get off the floor of my apartment. I had the worst back pain ever, and it shattered me. And I was like, I just spent a large portion of my teacher's paycheck to come over here and ski the best powder in the world. And when I finally I went to all the different doctors over there, physios, chiros, Eastern medicine, everything. Couldn't get it fixed. I found a lazy boy in an old hostel that had these massaging aspects to it. And I found the spot in my back and it just slowly but surely released this trigger that was my back and just everything relaxed. And I was able to finish off what was an amazing holiday. But then I went home and I was like, I'll never ever suffer that level of pain again. No, I'm not having that. And so my journey started to emerge. I restudied under a guy called Paul Chek and the Chek Institute, and I wanted to fix my own back problems. So off I went. I started fixing my own back problems. I was still in teaching. That was my support structure. That was my income. I still really enjoyed my job. I actually moved in and became a hostel master because I thought that would be a really, there was a real urge to father young men. And that was, I was kind of like, oh, I'll be Uncle Josh. That'll be a real fulfilling purpose for me in the hostel. Like, when you go to boarding school and kids are in the hostel there. So all this is happening, and a couple of other guys are getting injured and hurting themselves, a couple of other teachers. So I started up a little morning movement on a Thursday morning, and we'd do a little early movement and then we'd go for a coffee. So I helped these guys fix their back. And then one of these guys asked me, like, hey Josh, I'm having a bit of troubles, like just mentally, and I just don't feel like there's any purpose left for me in my life. What else is there? He was in his 50s. I was like, oh, it's really tough. I'd welcome a conversation. And so meanwhile, what I've been doing my back training, there's two pathways. So you study the physical and you study the mental, emotional, and spiritual as a holistic lifestyle coach, qualified as a Czech practitioner under the Czech Institute, right? And so there I am. I remember the office and having a chat with this guy. And in one session, I sit with this guy, maybe 40 minutes. And by the end of the session, he just goes, that's completely changed my life. I'm like, what? He's like, that has completely changed my life. I can feel the goosebumps. I feel the excitement. I feel the passion. He went on to teach another 15 years and loved it. Loved it. He just loved it.
Wow.
And he's still like now, he'll occasionally bike around to my house and knock on my door and we'll have a coffee. He's 66 now. And it's just, I was like, there's something here. And it lit me up. Like I had teaching and that lit me up. This exploded something inside me. And I was like, okay, I hear you. Right. What's the next move? And so that was the birthing of what originally was a business that I called Body IQ. It was about intelligent movement, intelligent life, intelligent bodies, and the connection of the mind, body, and the soul. And that was my first birthing and my first failure in business as well. But that was the spark. That was the thing that started it. And once I had a taste, I couldn't ignore the thing that kept gnawing at the back of my brain. I'd be teaching, and then it became, I remember the day I didn't want to go to work. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I didn't have any other income. I didn't have a home. I didn't have anything. In fact, I just invited my now wife back from overseas to live with me in this tiny little shoebox in a hostel filled with, a couple of hundred teenage boys. So she can imagine how excited she was about life. But I couldn't keep going to a job that no longer fulfilled me. And what I realize now, and what I realized coaching men and often the guys that I coach, is I realized there was an unbelievable amount of courage in that moment. I didn't realize it until later in my life because I was so hungry for this change and I was so ignorant to what that change would cost me and the initiations that I would have to go through in order to follow that purpose, to create a business, to build an income, to become a provider, to be able to provide for my now family. And so that was the unraveling of what is now the Uncommon Man Project, which is one of my truly greatest gifts to myself and I hope the world. Like it's something that I can't not do. Like I wake up and I'm like, this has got to come out of me. I can't not do this today. And off I go. It doesn't mean I don't have challenges, by the way. I certainly still have many, many of those, but that is where it started. And that is kind of where life is at the moment.
I just love it. Okay. That's very different from anything I heard before. And thank you. It's, I mean, I'm at old age. I'm all over thinking of my body and mental and brain as a whole thing, and I'm very much into meditation myself, breathing, mindfulness. I'm sure this is part of what you do or but I'm gonna come into that. You often speak about energy, connection, and leadership. Which of these became the spark of your early version of your work?
They all
Or the three of
intertwined at
them?
some Yeah, they all intertwined at some stage. The energy work was a very spiritual aspect of and it was very early on in my days. It was something that I was like, there's something greater than myself. The question was, what animates me? What calls me to do these things? And why does one thing feel good or, like aligned? And then why does this thing feel crunchy? And even to this day, like I have a mentor in my life and he'll ask me questions and I'll be like, "Oh, how did I not see that? I knew I felt it, but I didn't give myself the permission to go and do the thing that energetically aligned with me." However, one of the things that I found was in the energy world or the spiritual world, it can be quite feminine, like quite airy fairy, not feminine and female, but feminine in its energetics. And it's one of the things we kind of discuss in our guys when they're building strong, desired relationships. Is the feminine is a beautiful thing, but it's like it's going into the void. It's like it's the great unknown. It's visionary and it's very untangible. It's very hard to touch. And so when I started looking at leadership, it was the ability to take something that was connected to something greater than yourself, this vision that you had, this idea, this something that calls you, and then to process that, I call it processing through the heart space, and then putting it into the world. And that's a very this is feminine and this is masculine. Like to create in the world is a masculine energetic trait. Doesn't mean it's male. Both women and men create, but you receive from the feminine and then you create through the masculine. And what I found is in my earlier days, I was very feminine. I was very much in the airy fairy, like, oh, wow, these are great ideas. Like, I'm just going to let life flow and let it come out of me and all these things. And then I realized I was lacking a real level of initiation to get me through to the next step, which would then put me into leadership, which then actually built what I would now call my inspiring life. And a leader has an inspiring life, and that's how they lead people. They inspire people through their life or their words or how they are or how they direct the world. And the really, really good leaders, and I speak to businessmen about this all the time. They're always often complaining about how their team doesn't listen to them, how they're always having to hold hands, how they feel like surrounded by idiots. And I was like, all right, mate, let's look at the mirror. Let's use the mirror because the only thing we can control here is you. And I go, let's look at the masculine leadership that you're putting in place. Do people feel safe around you? Do they feel understood? Do they actually understand what you're asking them? Are you energetically grounded and giving firm, clear instructions that they both feel and understand? And as soon as we flip that, I actually spend all my time flipping it in in their most intimate relationships because their business just mirrors it. Once they can do it with their wife, which is always the hardest person to do it with because they are the most your wife, I always say, is the biggest growth or the biggest coach or the biggest personal development experience you'll have in your life. Once you do it there, doing it at work's a piece of piss. Like it's easy. And so that was my journey through like being very feminine and that kind of energy, finding the initial, and that took years. That took like a decade to finally find what it was and to have initiation thrust upon me. And then to find an actual mentor who I have now who helps me see initiation as such a beautiful opportunity. And now we pass that on to our men through our immersions, through our retreats. And oh my God, Laurent, like what a gift. What a gift. And it's really made me see the world and the things of where I was teaching when I was a teacher, the things that we missed, the things that we can put in place. And it's simple. It is really simple. I just like I said, I'm so excited to keep doing this work and keep sharing it.
That's beautiful. I love it. In your work, you meet founders, executive, and um, business owning dads, if I can say. And what are the top recurring challenges that men are facing right now?
I'll start in a bit of a triggering one, and this is an interesting one because it's physical. Men will report like not waking up with morning wood anymore, uh, not waking up with an erection, and that's one of the things that they report on. They're like, "Oh, I've just lost this," and I was like, "Okay, cool. What does that reflect in your life?" These guys have no problems with working their asses off. In fact, they wear it as a badge of honor. Like, I can work 80 hours a week, or I can work 70 hours a week. Like, I know how to work hard, and that's their badge of honor, right? But at the same time, this lack of like physical penetration and energy in the morning is what's happening in their life. They're like, I've made the money, I'm doing all right in life, but is this it? Like, I feel powerful in the boardroom, but not in my bedroom or not in my life. And they have this element of like, yeah, my wife respects me, but she just doesn't desire me. And I feel like there's this spark going. And we look throughout the entire life and it's like, yeah, you have no problems working. You have no problems making money. You have no problems creating things in this world. Yet you ask questions like, is this it? Like, I don't feel dangerous anymore. Like, I don't have this aliveness in me that I had when I started my business. This is the scary part. Like, it doesn't matter if a guy's making, 50 grand a month or $1 million a month or whatever it is, he will always find a way to come back to the thing that made him feel alive, which is this self-sabotaging loop of like founders do it all the time. Startup to startup to startup to startup. Yeah, I just love that startup energy. I love getting in there. I'm like, yeah, that's because that's you living on the edge and you can't find that anywhere else in your life. And once they understand, and this is the really sad factor, like the masculine, we want to die all the time. That's why you have these crazy videos of these videos of like, why do women live longer than men? And there's these like guys on dirt bikes trying to jump bloody giant canyons and backflips on things. And I'm like, that's because deep in our psychology, by dying, we get to rebirth and get to go to the next stage of our life, like the evolution of being a teenage boy to an adult to being a father, business owner. Like, they are all initiations. But when we don't initiate properly, we continually sabotage and go back for this death. And unfortunately, the devastating part about this is that men misunderstand this psychological loop. And in New Zealand, it's the worst, one of the worst in the world. They think they're hearing this death, like this idea of dying, and they think it's a physical death. So we lose thousands upon thousands of men to suicide across the world. It's an absolute epidemic to suicide. And what they are actually begging for is this psychological death of the boy, the next initiation into life. When a father finally steps out and his son's growing up and it's time to become a grandfather, that's your next initiation. Or the business owner who has been on the tools every day and is called to the next initiation of becoming a leader in his business and no longer has to be on the tools every day. And he actually gets to experience the business as the freedom machine that he started it for. But I watch these founders and I watch them raise capital and they raise tens of millions of dollars, or they start a business and then they go. And then the business, either if it's lucky enough, it continues, but most of the time they go, okay, cool, that didn't work, I'll go again. It's not that the business idea didn't work. It's that they run this same psychological loop of like, I love that startup energy. I love the drive. It's literally like the man waking up with the big heart on and being like, oh, I love this feeling. Like, I love this drive. And I'm like, yes. And how do we initiate you into the next stage so you can father your business onto the next person? You can build legacy. You can become the leader, like all of these things. And it's just it's like a playbook. It really is a recipe. And watching it play out hurts, because it hurts watching men replay the same pattern. But at the same time, it's also lovely watching it when you empower a man and you watch him step through that initiation and he comes out the other side and he goes, holy moly, this is amazing. And you're like, yeah, yeah, this is what life was about, right? This is why we die. This is what we come to.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Okay, let's dig in. For someone discovering your work for the first time, uh, just through the course structure, how does someone move from the first strategy call into the main program?
Cool. It's really interesting. And this is some of the kinks that I've actually found in developing coaching businesses, because when you work with an individual, although there's a recipe, there is timing. So it's like same in business. Like you look at somebody doing 100K a month, if they start trying to do the same thing as the guy doing $1 million a month, they fail. It's not that they were doing the wrong thing. It's that they were just plugging it in at the wrong that's it. And so the first thing, this is a blanket one. The first thing I do for every guy walking through my door is nervous system regulation. Because if you are, it's like flight, fight, fawn. So if you're in a fight response all the time, you're never ever going to be able to bring a grounded masculine presence to your wife and your family. They're going to feel like they're walking on eggshells all the time. Every time the wife brings up, because as I said, they're our biggest coaches and mirrors. She brings up something where you said you were going to do X and you didn't, and she goes, "Hey babe, I thought you were going to do that thing." Suddenly, you explode, and everybody's wondering where the anger came from. It's not about her, it's about your disappointment in yourself, but your nervous system is so jacked up, you can't expect to come from a calm place. You're exhausted from work, you're jacked up there, you're jacked up at home, like everything happens there. If you can't down-regulate the nervous system, that's like the foundation. And then for the physical state, we then go, okay, cool. Once we've layered your nervous system, your hormones start coming back online. So that drive that we talked about, like when people lose their energy, testosterone starts to go up, cortisol starts to come down. So we work on what's called the endocrine system. But this is really all happening in the background. And if I'm working one-on-one with a guy, that's happening. I'm like, right, these are the things you need to do on the daily. Do it. Like there's a non-negotiable there. If you don't do it, you're out. And then we start removing or becoming aware of the unconscious patterns that he's playing out. And we all have what we call core wounds. Like we all have a mother wound and a father wound. And it's like, I'm not good enough or I'm unworthy of love. And it's these two patterns that we run. And yes, I look at therapy, especially like things like talk therapy. You can do that for the rest of your life. And kudos to you. Like I look at people who continually do therapy and they run the loop and I'm like, how has your life changed? They're like, oh, I just need to embrace a bit more of my therapy and integrate more of my shadow and all these things. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But what about your light? Like, what about the creation of all the things and the amazing things that you are and then bringing that into the world? And so I explain it to my men. I'm like, cool, here's your anchor on the ground. It's freaking heavy and it's filled with all the bullshit in your life. The first thing we need to do is truth. Realize the things. So when I use weight as example. You can never lose weight unless you decide that in the first place you're overweight. You're never going to lose weight otherwise. You've got to come back to the very first truth of like, man, I'm overweight. And it's not a judgment. Most people judge themselves and then say, I'm a fat piece of shit and all the stories that come with it. I'm like, no, it's like, I'm overweight. Okay, cool. That's your anchor. What do you want to do with it? Well, I kind of just want to pick it up and go walking and change my life. Okay, cool. Up it goes. And as we're walking with the anchor, we can look at the beliefs and the systems that created the overweight in the first place. But meanwhile, we're not wasting time. We're actually stepping into your creation. So we're losing weight. We're getting more energy. And this anchor gets heavier because I'm stronger and I get more and more awareness along the way. So that without the nervous system again, we have no awareness because we're too busy in fight or flight. And so nervous system is always number one. And then I call it the stick and the carrot or the tiger. Most of us, 99.9% of us, will move pretty fast if we have a tiger chasing us. Like we will move in our life and like, I've got to stay away from that thing. And that pushes most men forward. And that's why when they achieve a goal, they quickly move the goalpost. They don't get a chance to enjoy the experience. And I've been one of those guys and I still catch myself because we want the tiger chasing us because we know unconsciously it drives us. And being driven is valued and being driven is know we're going to get success, which means we're going to make money, which means we're going to have status. So all of these things are playing in our mind where if we sit still and we're content with life and peaceful, is that really valued in society or is that really valued by my archetypal father or my wife or whoever it is? So what we do is I do two things. I highlight the tiger. I'm like, man, let's make sure you have a tiger. It's healthy for you. But let's not make sure you're being chased all the time because that's exhausting. And let's put a carrot out in front of you. So with our guys in our Luminary program, we do a 10-year vision. And then we simply align their business of what they thought their business was to actually the actual purpose of their business. And they get excited about it and they wake up every day thinking, oh, this maybe isn't so bad. I'm kind of excited to go to work. And then we just break it down to 90-day sprints. And then we break that 90-day sprint down into 3 high priority tasks every week. And it's not rocket science. But there's all these little games that we play along the way with the unconscious mind of like, oh, did you see that playing out? They're like, man, I did not see that playing out. I was like, cool. So that's been playing out your entire life. Let's do something about it because it's slowing you down now. And so we make the anchor just a little bit smaller. It's a little bit lighter now. And we make the dream or the vision a little bit stronger. So the thing moving forward gets faster. And suddenly we enjoy hitting goals. We don't just hit a goal and then move the goalpost, hit a goal, move the goalpost. We get to sit and go, wow, let's honor ourselves in this moment, see what we've achieved, feel it. Okay, and back on course. Next step. So yeah, that's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah, and much more. And you have supported thousands of men over the last decade. What transformations stand out to you? Deep relationship repair, energy shifts, or leadership changes, or all of the above? But which one is maybe?
This is hard. I had a moment just last week. A guy just joined our Luminary program. He's been there about 2 weeks, and he sent a message through to the group, and he just said, I haven't had much of a relationship with my father over my life, and he's always worked really, really hard, and he's coming up to retirement. And then he said, and I took the opportunity after having a chat with Josh, and I sat him down and I said, look, this is what I really desire, and this is what I'd love to see. And you've worked hard all your life, and I thank you for those gifts. But I'd really love to develop a relationship with you, and I'd love to see my kids develop a relationship with their granddad. And his dad said, yeah, I'd really love that as well. And this is a guy who's like hardliner, tradie, like generation before me, work hard, nose to the grindstone, come home, make sure the missus has got the dinner cooked for him. Like old school dude sitting having a conversation with his, I don't know, what are we, millennials, with his son. And then his son said his dad went and had dinner with his sister. And he sat with his sister, and his sister ended up calling him. And this is the son. So brother and sister. And he said, what did you talk to dad about? He just sat at dinner time and just said how proud he is of you, how excited he is of like spending more time with you and the kids and being a grandfather and really connecting with his son. And I was in tears watching this video. And I was like, that's generational change right there. Like that changes the game for men. Like, it's well me up now. Like that changes the game for men forever. Like his sons are going to have different views on life. They're going to have a connection with their grandfather. Like it gets me every time. And then I did the presentation. This was 70 minutes. Nothing crazy. Just I got invited to do a keynote speak for about 500 tradie business owners around North America and New Zealand and Australia. And this lady came up to me. She sent me a message, must have been about 6 weeks ago. And I reached out to her. I said, look, how are things going? And she said, our relationship has just changed dramatically. I'm deeply in love with the man that I knew he could be. And we're connected now. We're parenting as a team. And inside the business, he stands up for me. And it's just unreal. And our business and all the staff in our business are doing what they were doing. He's leading. We have time and space to connect. And I was just like, this is why. This is it. And so as much as I like to see people make money and hit their monetary goals, awesome. But what does that actually give you? And how do you change as the man to achieve those things? Hands down, relationships is just, it gets me. It wells me up inside and hits me right in the heart. The intimacy connection with the wife. There's a study that shows the success of a man can directly be related to the relationship that his father has with his mother. And so you make that relationship strong and connected, that boy is going to be successful because he's going to know what a great relationship looks like. He's going to know what great leadership looks like. It doesn't matter if he makes tens of millions of dollars. And I guarantee any father listening to this will be like, well, I want my kid to be happy. And I'm like, cool. Treat your wife like she's your absolute queen and watch her treat she'll reflect that back to you, and your son and your daughter will just see just dramatic changes. And that for me is hands down the best part of my job. The best part. Easy.
Love it. Love it. Okay, then on to growth or content. Your content is another big part of your impact through Instagram, YouTube, podcast, obviously. And how important has consistent content been in building your community?
I can directly relate how many clients I have and how big the business is directly to my content and where I've been producing it. I got pretty out of it for about 4 years when I was running a company. I was the CEO of a health coaching company, and the founder was kind of doing all the things. So I let go of my content, and there was both a sigh of relief of like, I don't have to do content anymore, and a sense of missing. And even today, like I had a revelation today, and I looked at some of my content and I felt it, and I was like, that's not me. That's not where I am right now. That's not me anymore. It's time to let that go. And I miss what I see in my content now is I miss teaching. Like I asked my question. I was driving the other day. I don't have a car, but I have a camper van. It's the only vehicle we have. We drive around this big yellow thing. And I was asking myself, I was like, cool. If you had no followers and you had an empty stadium or whatever it was, would you still do what you do and would you still speak what you speak? And I was like, yeah, I'd speak what I speak into the void. And so over the next little while, I'll see my content change again because I'm going to move back to more educational stuff, helping build my business through education, showing men what is possible and the steps that they can take. And that just feels so aligned to me. And I realize that in the marketing world, that it's not always the biggest driver for followers or a brand, but it's what feels good to me. And I notice that when I produce content, I get more engagement. I'll randomly get clients. That's how I get all my clients is content. And it's been organic most of my life. And people reach out, hey man, I'd love to know what looks like to work with you. I say, cool. This is what it looks like. Do you want in? Yeah. I'm like, okay, cool.
That's unbelievable. That's great. You told me in a pre-call that you want to narrow the focus of your offers. What's prompting that shift?
So two things. One is the type of guy that I want to work with. I've got to a point in life where I explain it in boats. I really want to work with a boat that's going well and make it go really, really fast. Because the gap between going well and going really, really fast, I can do very quickly. I can do within 3 to 6 months for somebody. And it's much easier on them as well. It's much harder to take a boat that's on the rocks, rebuild it, repaint it, put a new engine in it, get it moving again, and then get it going fast. It's not that I don't enjoy it. It's just that I got asked the question, what is the fastest way to make influence and impact? Find the most influential person and coach them. If I can find a CEO of a business, all right, sweet. He's probably got 60 staff. Easy. He's influencing them. President of the United States, how much influence over the world do you have if you coach one influential person? So I used to go for a very wide range of people and try to do volume. And I was like, yeah, but you could impact an entire company plus their families with one person. And that person's often going well, but you could make them go great. And so I laser focused on that. And then at the same time, there's this deep calling of the father and son initiation. So while I'm coaching men and doing the one-to-one and the group stuff that we do in the Luminary with my business mentor, we're actually, next year will be our first father and son initiation, and we'll start presenting in schools and it'll be like the uninitiated warrior for the young men. And then we'll pull their fathers in and do father-son initiations because it's such a fast transformation for two people. And the initiations are what we're missing. We're missing elders and initiations. So if we can pull that back in for young men, like you imagine not having to go through your life and have your midlife crisis thrust upon you. And, we always talk about youth is wasted on the young. What if I could transplant my brain now into the 16, 18-year-old version of myself? I was like, well, that's what you're kind of doing when you reintroduce initiations and elders. So those are our two things that we're getting very laser focused on. And the cool thing for the sort of founder, CEO, very specific, the boat going well. We've created a non-for-profit. So the non-for-profit drives the initiations and resources for the father and son initiations. So I'm just over the moon and excited about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And what's the biggest operational challenge for you right now? Growth, clarity, team, or structure?
It would be growth. Yeah, it would be consistent growth. So growth comes in. No, actually, I would say it's probably speed of growth. Like most men, I get impatient in business. I'm like, why can't we be there now? Like, I want to be in my 10-year vision yesterday. That's when I want to be at my
Yeah,
10-year vision, right? And so,
I relate to that.
yeah, exactly right. But the funny thing is with growth becomes growing pains. And so speed of growth of ours, we don't bring on too many clients every month. We are very strict in our process. We're pretty definitive in who we work with. We push away more people than we take on. But that is our bottleneck, speed of growth. Because yeah. And I've been down this road before where we grew really, really fast in a company that I was CEO for, and it hurt. Dramatically, it hurt. The systems broke. The hours to work were huge. It was tough, and I wouldn't do that again. I wouldn't go down that route again. But yeah, that would be our thing, speed of growth.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I love it. And how do you balance being the face of a brand with managing the company behind it?
Yes, yeah, it's a good question. This is something I've had to learn. This is something I've really had to learn. The old adage of nobody does it as good as I do, got to get rid of that one. So I had to get rid of that. So I'd be sitting on a call. I remember this from my business mentor. Cool, yeah. So no, I'm gonna do this for 4 weeks and make sure it's all good and proper, and then I'll systemize it and hand it over. Nope, hand it over now. I was like, what? No, no, I've got to make sure it's good. No, no, hand it over now. Yeah, but they won't do it. Hand it over now. Okay, fine. And you hand it over, and suddenly we always run by universal laws, but one of the laws that isn't universal, but it's a law, is Parkinson's law. A task will take as long as you give it. So all of our men, as much as they hate it, we make them work less. We make them work a lot less. And it's the same idea of, like, let's say somebody's making 10K a month, right? If I ask them to make 20K a month, they just think, okay, cool, I'll just work more hours. Okay, that makes sense in their mind. They don't have to become creative. They don't have to expand. But if you're making 10K per month and I say you've got to make 250, well, they can't do that through working more hours. So they have to shift a level of thinking. They have to go to another stage. And it's the same thing with the Parkinson's law. It's like if you've only got 4 hours to work in a day, you got to think differently. You can't work 12 hours. You've got that limited amount of time. You've got to be efficient. You've got to delegate and you've got to lead, and your communication has to go through the roof. Otherwise, you're repeating yourself all the time. And when tasks don't get done right, there's only one person's fault. That's the leader. And so that has been the biggest management shift for me. Is like, okay, cool. You're only allowed to work 4.5 hours a day, 4 days a week. That's it. Okay, right. Wow. But I have 80 hours of work to do. It's not going to work. So you've got to change your level of thinking. So my delegation got much better. AI has been dramatic, like dramatic in its ability. It's been one of the biggest shifts, funnily enough, is actually dramatic in its ability to help me with my communication. Because I want to put a set of instructions down. Right. So I'll blab away and then, okay, cool, give it prompts to break them down to very specific instructions, very specific steps, and I find that my tasks are getting completed with more accuracy in shorter periods of time, funnily enough. Why? Because my communication is so much better. And so AI has been a game changer. We run our business now with 3 people. We used to be 30 across the world. I was like,
Wow.
you know,
Yeah, it's
so we,
I
yeah.
it's yeah, it's unbelievable what you can do with AI. Definitely. And what's your long-term vision for the Uncommon Man project?
So our sort of 10-year vision, I want 2 locations, 2 retreat locations where we run initiations. So we'll have those set up just for places where we can go. So the idea is that when we run either a men's initiation or a father-son's initiation, You rip them from the home, basically. There's I'll share a beautiful story with you because it's really lovely. In the kind of Amazonial tribes or in our ancient living, they would watch the boy down by the river. The chief would watch the boy, and he'd watch him playing around. He's doing boyish things, and great, he's been a boy. Then one day, he'd spot the girls down by the river, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah," and the chief could see him looking. And then he'd continue on. Then one day, the boy would decide to approach the woman, and he knew that was the day that the boy must die. So the boy now must die. And so the warriors, the king, the chief, they'd all get together and they'd chant and the boy must die. And the mothers, the woman would play their roles perfectly. And they would scream and yell and no, please don't kill the boy, please don't kill the boy. And these guys would drag this boy off into the wilderness, into the jungle. And they'd send him through a set of initiations. These initiations, like sometimes obviously it's pretty savage in old tribes, like some boys would die physically. They would never return. Obviously, that's not the point. The point was that the boy would then have a psychological death, like I spoke about earlier, and from there, he would find his inner strength and become a man. And in that moment as well, the men who were helping him through the initiation would care him back to health, clean him, look after him. And he would see the softness of the masculine. He would see the softness of men, but also the brutal warrior side of it, of the initiation as well. And when he would return back to the tribe, he'd have the opportunity to now choose a wife because now he would then have the opportunity to hunt with the men, to eat with the men, to go with the warriors. He was no longer a boy, he was a man, and his relationship would change with his mother. She was no longer that, she couldn't be the devouring mother that we have in the kind of wounded matriarch that we talk. But then how this relates to the vision is having two places that we have internationally for people to go to where we take the men, we take them away from the woman in their life, we take them away from their normality, and we throw them into initiation. And the vision is to then, as the men are off, this is the beautiful thing because in the tribes, when the boy returned, they would feast. They would celebrate. They would celebrate the masculine. They would celebrate the man. It was this beautiful thing of like seeing the value of what the man had and seeing the value of what women have in our society. It was really honored. And we've lost that. And so in these initiation places, we have the opportunity to take the fathers and sons away. Meanwhile, the mothers get to do some work on themselves as well. And then you get this beautiful union of the return. So as the boys come back out of the bush to this beautiful paradise of the retreat or the place that we build, the women get to play their role and celebrate this new man. And you look through society and you look at the studies and you look at like prisons, you look at men who are violent, all these sorts of things have lacked mature masculine leadership in their life. That's it. It's one of the greatest answers to heal the world and heal the violence that we have. I'm like, why are we not doing this? The answer's here. It's already. I'm like, the recipe's here. It was done. We can do it again. Yeah, and so that is the 10-year vision for that aspect of the business. And then we'll have 600 men running through our school for men, which is the adult version, and I'll have over 1,000 young boys running through our uninitiated warrior process inside our school as well, and running international
I love
events and
it.
initiations. Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's
Uh,
exciting times.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. I love it. And I love your energy. What personal routine or principle guide your daily leadership?
Slow mornings. Slow mornings are my thing now. It's completely opposite to what I call the ice bath brothers, the ice bath bros. Like, don't get me wrong, I can have an ice bath, but having a family and creating a business where I can choose where I work and how I work, I've realized that slow mornings are my thing. I get up, I choose to work out. At the moment, I've been exhausted since coming back from Europe, and I raced the World Multisport Championships. I qualified for the World Off-Road Exterior Triathlons in Italy. Like all of these things, I came back and I didn't realize how much I'd burnt the wick. And it's seeing that and going through the process of like letting go of the gym. The gym sits just over here. My bikes are on the wall. I can go for runs. And I was like, no, this isn't the thing. So I get up with my little guy. He wakes up at about 6. We hang out on the couch. Then my partner wakes up about 8. We'll go for a walk. I've fed him breakfast. He's got change. We'll go for a walk. We'll come back. we've got a coffee machine at home, so we'll sit and have coffee and a little breakfast together, and then I might decide to do some meditation. If I'm feeling good and energized, I'll do a workout, and then I'll get into work, and that's literally my morning routine. I used to be harsh on myself. I used to be, "It's gotta be like this, it's gotta be da, da, da," not so long ago, and then that's helpful, don't get me wrong, it's helpful at a time, and it was very productive. I came 12th in my age group at the World Multisport Championships. It was very, very helpful for that event if I didn't have the structure, right? But now it's just it's not aligned with my greatest values in life right now. People asking, what's the ideal morning routine? And I'm like, well, check in with your values. What's great? Don't be lazy. Like, I still agree that early bird gets the worm. I understand that. But at the same time, like, does that align with where you are in life? Tune in with your body. Am I overworking? And I simply share with my clients, it's like, are you working in or are you working out? And I use the phone example. I was like, how long does it take to charge one of these? I was like, 20 minutes. And you 80%. Yeah, cool. You don't need to, meditate for 16 hours a day. I was like, you could do some Tai Chi for 5, 10 minutes and you'd be recharged for a good few hours. It's like, oh no, but I've got to work out. I'm like, yeah, that's you expressing energy. That's your own beliefs about. That's a whole story in itself. But yeah, hope that helps.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, this is great. This was very powerful. Thank you so much,
You're welcome.
Josh, we learn every day, great energy, and now you can have a gin and tonic, and it's a good time for you.
Good time. It's my Friday today, so 4 days a week, I've gotta not work tomorrow. That's the challenge.
Wonderful. Josh, thank you so much for taking the time. Where do people can reach you? Obviously you're all over the place, but give us reach you and your team to get
So
some info.
School for Men is my Instagram, just school number 4 men, and then the same as I have we're on the platform School, which is SKOOL, and we're the same, School for Men. So I welcome any man into our space. I love it. We have so many resources in there. Yep, it's free, a lot of it. And yes, there is a whole bunch of paid stuff. And yes, that's where guys can apply for any coaching or anything like that.
Wonderful. This is great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's it for today's episode of the AI InterConnect. And if you enjoyed it, share it with someone who's building the future, or better yet, someone who should be. And until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and keep building. Thank you, Josh. We'll see you very, very soon. Thanks. Okay.